The Nike LeBron TR1. So in this video, I'll discuss some first impressions that I have with this shoe based on how they fit, feel, and perform for my first sessions. I'll also discuss sizing info. So if you don't feel like waiting for my full review, you'll definitely want to check out that section because the shoe does have a very interesting fit. So I have 5 first impressions with this shoe. And number 1, I think if you are somebody who is much more geared towards athletic style training, so you like to lift and blend in some HIIT and dynamic work with your workouts, the shoe will do a pretty good job. Honestly, I feel like it offers a nice separate vertical from the Nike Free Metcon line and the Air Zoom TR1 in that the shoe has kind of a more athletic fit and appeal to it in my opinion. It feels a lot more like a classic Nike shoe in the sense that it has that more sock-like athletic fit, it hugs the foot really well, and it does a decent job at locking that foot down when you're lifting, but then also giving you enough pop and responsiveness when jumping. So this has been a pretty good shoe for athletic workouts, and if that's you, I think you will resonate with this model, especially if you're a LeBron fan. Now, if you're not a LeBron fan, I'm sure you're gonna miss on this shoe, so I'm curious about your thoughts as well on what you think of this model from the appearance and whatnot. Let me know in the comments below. The second first impression that I have with this shoe is it is a snug fitting shoe. So if you have a wide foot, God bless if you're going to invest in this model. But this model has a pretty aggressive toe box here. So as you can see, it has a pretty big taper. And I think what gives this shoe its more snug fit through the toe box especially is this TPU overlay that runs up the lateral side of the shoe. So basically this gives you a nice base of rigidity when you're doing lateral work. I like it from a lateral security standpoint, but from a toe splay standpoint, you do feel this press on the pinky toe. So you can see here with the taper, how this kind of comes in. It isn't the most forgiving for wider feet. And I think if you have a flatter foot, you'll also not like this shoe regarding the fit here with the TPU and with this arch here and the aggressive taper through the midfoot. So all that to say, the LeBron TR1 has a snug fit. It is not going to be your best wide foot friendly shoe, and it has a pretty significant arch, which takes me into my third first impression, which is if you like training shoes with a significant arch support, I think you will like this model. So you can see that the arch in this shoe is pretty pronounced. I noticed it right when I put it on. And honestly, I have a normal arch and I even found this to be a smidge off-putting for the first 2 workouts until I kind of adapted to how it felt. But you are going to feel that pressing into the midfoot. So if you have a flatter midfoot and you don't love arch in your shoes, or you just don't love anything pressing into the midfoot with your models, that would definitely be something to consider with this shoe, and it might be a total miss for you regarding the last construction and its fit. My fourth first impression with this shoe is I don't necessarily love the midsole and the upper and how it connects together. Now, the shoe, I have enjoyed its performance, but hear me out here. What I'm noticing with this model, because it has a snugger fit and how it has like this almost like neoprene / mesh material on the lateral side that does have a little bit of give to it, I feel like you can almost spill over the midsole on this model because it has this upper that kind of overhangs. And I'm interested if other folks are going to pick up on this. Because we have this taper and because we have this kind of almost like flared out upper on both the lateral and medial side, I think you can spill over at times in the shoe. My favorite stuff to do in the shoe thus far has been like kettlebell workouts and flows, just general strength workouts, and then also dynamic movements where I'm heavy on the forefoot where I'm driving into the lateral side of the shoe. I haven't necessarily loved them for everything, and I think that's because of just how this midsole feels with the upper and how it can kind of feel almost like spillovery at times, and I'm wondering if you're going to notice that too. So if you do buy the LeBron TR1, I would love to know your thoughts on that. Do you feel like you're spilling over in the shoe at times? Or do you feel like this really aggressive TPU rubber overlay here locks you down enough to where you're not having that issue? My fifth first impression with this model is I do like the upper when it comes to security, but the booty doesn't have a ton of stretch. And so if you have a high instep and a thicker foot, I think you might notice that this shoe can be a little bit tough to get on at times. And this goes twofold if you have a sweatier foot. So we do have these loop laces here. So we kind of have that like fly wire tech. They don't call it fly wire, so I'm not going to, but that is kind of what it resembles. And it gives you a little bit of leeway here with the laces. But again, this doesn't have the most stretch to it. So you might find that it's a little bit tough to get on for my thicker foot folks out there. You do have an external heel tab here to help out, but keep in mind that anytime you have a booty style shoe, that is always a risk you can run. The Nike Free Metcon 6 has the same issue in the sense that it doesn't have the most stretch. You sacrifice a little bit of security there for getting on the shoe super seamlessly and easy. But for the most part, the upper I think does a good job with overall security. Now granted, this neoprene side here, again, can have some spillover stuff, so I will be curious to know what other folks are feeling and for what movements they're feeling that for, because I could definitely see that being an issue with this model. And then just to quickly talk about the outsole here, because I know that's going to be a contention point for most folks. We have a full rubber outsole with some grooves up here in the forefoot. It breaks in relatively quick up here in the forefoot, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. But something I'm keeping an eye on as I test this model is when you have aggressive brakes like this, and we saw this with the Nike Free Metcon 6, so aggressive brakes of foam mixed with this like rippier rubber, I'm curious how the durability of the shoe is going to fare for long-term use for heavy forefoot dominant movements. So think like heavy sled pushes, pulls, sprints, and any form of like broad jump where you're really digging into that forefoot, especially on surfaces like turf. That is something I'm gonna keep a beat on, so definitely stay tuned for my review on that. I'm gonna see if I can break the shoe in those contexts because I think that's gonna be an athletic vertical that a lot of folks are gonna wanna use this shoe for, so I wanna make sure it's not gonna break super fast and you're not gonna waste your money on this model. When it comes to sizing and fit, if you have a narrow or medium width foot, you should be safe going true to size in this model. I have an E to double E width foot and a normal arch. This model's arch I can feel pretty pronounced. Now I did get used to it and it's not the most uncomfortable thing I've put on my foot, but you will notice it, so keep that in mind. And then also for my wide-footed folks, I am pushing it in this model. And again, like an E to double E width foot, that's not that wide. So if you have a 2E width foot or wider, you might want to steer clear on this shoe because I think even if you size up, you're not going to have enough room in the forefoot here to accommodate your anatomy. But all that said, if you have additional questions on the LeBron TR1, drop a comment down below or reach out to me personally, whichever you prefer. And as always, y'all, drop a like on the video, drop subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys in the next one.